Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Boruto Next Generations episode review for the Boruto anime. This one's going to be for episode 3, which is called Metal Lee Goes Wild. And yeah, the strong start to Boruto, the anime, I think continues. I think it's probably the least impactful episode of the show so far, but obviously we're still in early days, we're still primarily getting introduced to a lot of our characters in that you would probably call this our, Metal Lee introduction episode as well as our kind of getting to know Shikadai a bit better episode. And then next episode looks to be the one where they properly introduce Sarada into things. So there's a lot of positives going on here in that just these early episodes just getting to know the characters, but also the episode having that hint at something bigger with regards to continuously bringing up this eye power that Boruto has, which doesn't seem like the Byakugan, could be the Tenseigan, could be something new. And especially the scene at the end where he actually asks his mother Hinata about the Byakugan, and he's kind of like, oh, was it chakra I was looking at? But I wasn't doing this other stuff that the Byakugan does, like seeing crazy distances or necessarily seeing his chakra network, that sort of thing, X-ray vision like the Byakugan has. It was just like sensing this evil presence within Metal Lee in this episode, and then Denki in the previous episodes. So I like that as a kind of ongoing mystery, and you have that little moment where he kind of stares at Himawari and he's just kind of like, do you have these eyes? Can I see it? Yeah, nice little thing there. And then right at the end of the episode, Naruto comes home after basically saying he pulled an all-nighter and immediately going to bed, and this furthering obviously Boruto's kind of dislike of his father not eating the food Hinata had prepared. But I don't think Boruto quite heard that Naruto spent the whole night basically working. And again, it just highlights that in the movie, that's when this actually takes place, which again is a interesting one in that I'm kind of wondering if the way they're going to do this is that they're going to do it in arcs. Like, we're going to get this introductory arc, and then maybe they're going to skip a little bit of time. Maybe we'll have a second arc, then maybe we'll skip some time, and maybe then we're in post-Boruto movie stuff or something like that, that they'll kind of get past this kind of quickly enough. Or is the overall Boruto show just meant to be focusing on the characters prior to the Boruto movie? But who knows exactly. But yeah, the plot of this episode was basically Metal Lee. We're getting to know him a bit better, and we don't even really know him particularly well from the Boruto movie or any of the other Boruto stuff that's come out before. So probably getting introduced to him here as okay, he more or less is similar to Rock Lee and Guy, of course, in that he specializes in taijutsu. He has the majority of Lee's special techniques, it looks like, the Leaf Hurricane, and the hint towards the end of the episode of the inner gates, and him about to use some of them, or at least while possessed, forced to use one of them. But it seems like he is implied that he knows them, and that Shikadai is aware that this was what he was about to do, so kind of basically demanding that someone knock Metal Lee out before he goes into one of the 8 inner gates. So there's that, but also there's the unique dynamic of he's different than Lee in that he's actually good at other stuff, in that he trains a lot, he puts in a lot of effort, and is actually somewhat talented in terms of he's excellent at shuriken. Especially that they seem to note that as one of his techniques, this kind of double dragon, amazing power shuriken throw that he has, and the ability to curve it seems like, or just be really accurate with it. We haven't really seen him do ninjutsu yet, so we don't know if he's going to have the same limitations as Rock Lee. But right now, obviously, they're in the early stages of the academy. They've only just started, so it's basically just a situation where our characters know pretty much their clan's specific technique, and that's about it. So Boruto knows Naruto's basic techniques, Metal Lee knows Rock Lee's basic techniques. Shikadai, of course, knows the standard Shikamaru techniques that he had at the start, but it doesn't necessarily seem like they all know the transformation jutsu just yet. But Boruto's kind of ahead of the things on that front. But we'll have to wait and see how things go in terms of if they actually properly get into like establishing who knows which jutsus. But they definitely made a note in this episode of the fact that for a majority of the class, this was their first time pretty much ever throwing shuriken. And our characters who are like from ninja families obviously know what they're doing. But the majority of the other, characters who we don't really know or aren't from families that we know of, this is a first time thing for them. They're just complete beginners at like ninja art stuff. So that's going to be interesting to follow, just to see if there's anyone who like goes in with like no ninja experience and turns out to be really good, or what, and what they do with the characters who maybe just aren't good at the ninja stuff at all. But yeah, the core of the episode pretty much comes down to the fact that with Metal Lee, yes, he is skilled, but it's limited because anytime anyone like notices that he's doing something and kind of watches him as he trains and does these amazing things that he can do, he gets really nervous and then makes mistakes. Usually, obviously, making his really powerful taijutsu kind of destroy things and getting everyone into trouble. So the mistake here is that Boruto comes in with the Demon Wind Shuriken. He tries to do a kind of really cool move to like kick it away, but gets his foot caught and like slams into all of the target practice stuff that they have going on there. They're then all basically group punishment have to help repair Naruto's stone monument and the Hokage monument. And up there, he also makes a mistake when he basically cracks even more of it off. And, Shikadai basically gives out to him and is basically saying, kind of pointing out all of his flaws, that when you get nervous, you make mistakes, and you're way too honest. And they kind of just point out the idea that Shikadai was being overly harsh, and he kind of feels the need to apologize for it. And they kind of use that as a little bit of a character development moment for Shikadai, in that we get a scene with him at home with Tamari and then Shikamaru, his mother and father, when she wants Shikamaru to just completely like give out to him, but Shikamaru just comes in and is just like, yeah, that's fine. Him getting in trouble and getting scolded and kind of learning the right points to say sorry or not, and him realizing that he does need to say sorry to Metal Lee for being so harsh. And Lee obviously going off, taking this very much to heart, and showing up later on in the episode possessed by this kind of aura that seems to remove their key kind of character weakness and make them more powerful in terms of like confidence. And obviously the idea is that it latches onto negative emotions that people have and the weaknesses that they're perceived to have, and kind of getting them past them. So that's a really interesting dynamic once they start to reveal it. There was a slight hint about what it was at the start, the first kind of like glowing eye thing, but we don't really know what it was. But again, it's kind of it fell away when the person is like knocked out or has like a really big moment of like changing their mind on things. It ended up like not being like too impressive in terms of it was just a way to showcase Metal Lee's skill when he basically is confident and isn't nervous, and how he's able to pretty much handle like Inojin, Boruto, and Shikadai all on his own. That's how much power he has. I liked the kind of clever use of their kind of triple team tactics from them to kind of capture Metal Lee, with regards to Boruto using transformation jutsu and shadow clones, and then Inojin using his Super Beast Scroll to mimic a shadow on the ground to make Metal Lee retreat, while Shikadai is actually in the bushes and kind of grabs him. I thought that was really, really clever. As well as that, I also noticed with Inojin's Super Beast Scroll, he uses colored kind of art most of the time, which is different than Sai, who was all black. That was what he used. So I'm guessing that the idea here is that this is Sai's technique with the the art of Sai with the colorful flowers of Ino is kind of what they're maybe going for with his use of this technique, that he likes to use more color than his father, and the color potentially comes from Ino, but that's just a guess right now. But it's very interesting the way he distinguishes it by using color. Uh, um, but yeah, we just end the episode with the idea that kind of Metal Lee is now a little bit more involved in the group. He's kind of like the class rep, kind of a teacher's pet type character. But they're trying to bring him in and kind of make him loosen up a bit. Play the video game when we have a break. Don't be so serious. But again, when he's playing the video game, they put pressure on him. He gets nervous and breaks it. And, just introducing things as we go along. Like last week, we got basically Inojin properly incorporated into the group in terms of a little arc for him. This week was kind of Shikadai and Metal Lee. Next week, it looks to be the Sarada focused episode where we're finally going to get potentially how much they know of each other right now and what exactly the relationship dynamic is between the two, main of the Naruto kid characters here. So I'm really excited for the next episode, and that they seem to be setting up that they have a fight, and how exactly that goes is going to be interesting, because obviously we haven't really seen Sarada in action really much up to now, but we obviously know that she basically has Sakura's strength, hasn't yet awakened the Sharingan, because that happens in the Naruto Gaiden thing, which hasn't happened yet, I don't think. So she doesn't have the Sharingan, but she probably has her mother's kind of strength and knows probably a lot of basic jutsu like Boruto tends to. So it could actually be a really interesting fight, depending on what way they choose to go with it, in terms of giving anyone a victory or what. But definitely, I'm very, very pleased with how Boruto has started off. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode as well as the review. But yeah, that's been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.